Talking rock with you every day here on Trunk Nation, Faction Talk Channel 103, every day live, 3 to 5 Eastern, anytime on the SiriusXm app. Full shows, interviews, audio, video, more. Grab it on demand. And join me every day. Get involved at 844-686-5863 and follow on social media at Eddie Trunk. We're going to go to the phones now with a guy who, well, his appearance with us last week pretty much locked up and froze the SiriusXm app with so many people wanting to hear it. He promised that he would be back with us in 7 days with an update. Ace Frehley was on with us, of course, last Wednesday, upset about comments that Paul Stanley made about the original lineup, and if they would have played at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, that they would have been more accurately called PISS instead of KISS. And as many know, last week Ace issued an ultimatum to Paul to issue an apology for that comment, or he was going to come back on this show in 7 days and discuss if in fact that happened. So joining us now live on Trunk Nation, returning to the show, is Ace Frehley. Ace, how are you, buddy?
How you doing, brother?
I'm good.
It's been crazy week. Here I am trying to finish my new album, working 6 days a week, 12-hour shifts, and I have to deal with all this nonsense.
Well, let me ask you this before we
texting
hold on,
me,
Ace,
emailing me.
Before we get to what's happened in the last 7 days, did it take you by surprise that what you said a week ago on this show had become such a thing, like it spread literally all over the world? Were you surprised by that? Because this isn't the first time you've said some stuff about them and they've said stuff about you, but this one really seems to have touched a nerve.
Well, Paul and Jane have pretty much dragged my name through the mud ever since I quit the band the first time in 1981, 1882. They actually begged me not to leave, even though after I left, they said I was unemployable, undependable, and not a good guitar player, and everything you could say negatively about a musician, they said about me. But prior to me quitting the band, they asked me to please stay. That's a fact.
Well, to the point, well, hold on, let me jump in there. What would absolutely support that is the fact that everybody knows the period you're talking about is Creatures of the Night. You were out of the band. You were already out of the band, but they still put you on the album cover and put you in the video. So obviously that was an attempt to keep people on the hook.
I wasn't really happy about being on that cover. I didn't need the press. I didn't need the money, and I thought it was unfair to the fans that I really didn't play almost anything on that album, although Michael James Jackson, the producer of the record, said I did. It was so long ago, I can't even be accurate with the statement on whether or not I did perform at least one song. I may have, but I think that's a moot point at this juncture.
Yeah, of course. So we know the history. We know all that stuff. We know since then there's been ups and downs. You've been in, you've been out, and all of that. Update everybody, if you will, off of last week when you were on this show and you wanted the apology from Paul. Did he contact you?
Yes, he did. Not long after the show was over.
And
I was blindsided by the phone call because I saw his name come up on my cell phone, and I spoke to him 100 different times on that number, and that can be verified by Verizon, who is my cell phone carrier. So, I figured he was calling me maybe to apologize or at least explain why he said that. Maybe he meant it really more towards Peter than me, and whatever the case may be. But instead of an apology, I got a 5-second phone call which said, "F you, Ace. I'm not going to apologize." and hung up.
You can curse on this. So say that again. He said, "Fuck you, Ace."
He said, "Fuck you, Ace. I'm not going to apologize," and hung up. He wasn't even man enough to let me give a rebuttal and explain why I'm so upset or anything like that.
So this wasn't a voicemail. You actually answered the phone, and on the other end, That's what you heard.
No, it wasn't a text. It was a phone call.
And it wasn't a voicemail. You answered.
I picked it up because it said Paul S.
Right.
When it comes to the guys, I never write their full name. God forbid somebody finds my phone. They may not figure it out that it's Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley, and I would never give out their phone numbers.
Right. I do that with people in my phone directory too, including you.
Sometimes I even call people, by aliases, like, I'll call somebody Clarabelle or those other clowns.
This is amazing. This is amazing. Hold on. So shortly after last Wednesday, he calls you and you answer and he says, "Fuck you, Ace. I'm not apologizing," and hung up the phone. That was it?
Absolutely. And if you look for your emails, messages that I sent you, I did screen grabs from Verizon on it's the same day as our interview, and it says 5 seconds.
Yeah, no, I saw that. So
you saw that. So you're verifying that Paul S. called me and a 5-second phone call.
You sent me the screen grab, and I do see the 5 seconds. Yes, absolutely.
And I'm going to just say to the audience, some idiot out there might say, "Oh, well, Ace is a graphic artist. He's really good at Photoshop. He could have probably Photoshopped it." Well, guess what? It's still on the servers, and I'm still going to get a bill from Verizon.
Right.
And it's going to say a 5-second phone call from PS Paul Stanley.
So, Ace, what happens next? Did you try to call him?
The judge can order them to pull it off the servers because it's still there. Now, I told Doc McGee this whole story, and you know what he came back with? He said, "Paul said he never called you, number one. Number two, Doc said to me, well, he uses like AT&T. Not realizing that it really doesn't matter if he calls me from Tokyo, from Schmoho cell phone company.
No, it doesn't matter. I mean,
my carrier documents every phone call I get.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what service you have. The log is there, and
I can't believe Doc said that to me.
So wait a minute.
When did smarter than that when it came to cell phones?
When did Doc contact you?
Oh, I've been in touch with Doc for like at least 3 or 4 times between our last interview and today. And the earliest I texted him was today because I was hoping Paul had enough sense to, you know what? I would have been happy if Paul would have just called me one-on-one like a man and apologized. That would have sufficed. But after cursing me out on the phone, the gloves are off.
But he did anything but apologize. It sounded. I mean to just say.
He made me twice as mad.
But what is so?
And I've known Paul for almost 50 years, and we've always had a really good rapport on the cell phone. You know, and but I recognized his voice. If you know somebody 50 years, you know their voice.
Of course. Well, no, I
would never lie about something like that, and I can prove it.
Well, of course. I mean, that's just it. But okay. So what?
We're living in a world with technology that has footprints.
Right. So what does Doc? What are the conversations with Doc? Is he trying to calm you down, apologize for him?
I guess, or just doesn't understand the way the phone system works.
Well, above and beyond
the fact that Paul Stanley is using an AT&T phone has no bearing on the fact that I'm with Verizon I don't want to plug any companies, but I got to speak reality because, when this hits court, I have to tell the carrier.
No, it's irrelevant what cell phone carrier
it's defamation of character. I mean, what he said on the Howard Stern show is inexcusable. And
so what?
You want to play? You want to play the section? I think I sent it to you.
Of what? Howard's audio?
All understand why I'm aggravated.
Well, no. Most people, anybody that's a KISS fan saw and heard KISS on Howard Stern. It was
Not
well
everybody.
distributed. Well, yeah, but I can't repurpose that.
Fans? Not a lot of times. My fans don't even give a shit what Paul and Gene say. They haven't listened to Paul and Gene's interview since I left the band 15 plus years ago.
But the interview with Howard's out there for everybody to hear. I can't repurpose Howard's interview audio on this show. But is
that a legal issue?
It's an internal thing. Yeah, we would have to get approval from Howard's team and all that.
No problem. Just so the fans know, you can go on howardstern.com and listen to it.
Yeah, you can watch it and listen to it on the SiruisXm app right now.
And what really aggravated me, I didn't even know this because, I'm half deaf from playing through Marshall amps for 40 plus years. My friend told me the other day that after Paul said that, Tommy giggled.
I'd have to look back at it and see it. I didn't watch it that closely. I actually heard it. I didn't see it.
Neither did I. I mean, I was told by a second party, that that was said. That's all I had to hear. Then I got really, really pissed off because in 2014, when we were being inducted into Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I already had 2 albums under my belt, 8 years sobriety, and was touring. So Paul is trying to give the impression to the fans that I can't get up and play 2 songs. Is he out of his mind? I don't know what meds he's on, but something. It's not the same guy I knew 5-10 years ago.
All right, so I want to just go back to
applying anything. I'm not saying he's on anything he shouldn't be on. I'm just saying I'm totally blindsided and confounded. I can't understand it. But I recognize his voice, so it is what it is.
It's very hard to make the case against you that you, and this is just fact. This isn't taking sides, just fact. It's impossible to say to anybody that you are incapable of performing live or making music when you have put out a record every year or two and you play shows regularly and you front the band and you perform, whether people know it or not. You're out there constantly touring and playing shows, just open for Alice Cooper. So yeah, that narrative doesn't work at all because the proof is there.
It was a 5-week tour, 4 or 5 shows a week. Alice's wife came in and said, Ace, your band is the icing on the cake for the show. And I thought that was really a sweet commentary that she said.
But Ace, I want to go back to the thing with Doc. So you said you have multiple conversations with Doc. What kind of stuff does he tell you? What did you guys talk about? Can you share any of that?
Yeah.
What did he say? Did he apologize for Paul?
He his first response was, I spoke with Paul. Paul denied making the phone call. I said, Doc, I have the evidence. I did screen grabs. Laura helped me out. She goes, let me pull up your memory. And she pulled up Wednesday, and it said a 5-second call from Paul S. So I did a screen grab, and I sent it to Doc. And he goes, I'll call him back. He was on vacation with his family, from what I understand, in Mexico. I don't care if he was in Fiji. Doesn't matter. It's on the servers in the Verizon company.
So what else? So okay. So initially, Doc tries to say he didn't make that call. You have the proof that he did. Where does it go from there?
I never heard anything further from Doc at that point. I called him again. I texted him again today. He told me that Paul has a different phone company. and which is pretty idiotic because it has
It's
no
nothing to
bearing
do with
on-
anything. No.
It has nothing to do with my carrier. If I call him, it's on his server in AT&T, but I didn't call him. He called me. So he lied to his manager, and I think Doc bought it. So after that text, Doc never called me back. I was hoping he would try to talk some sense into Paul because I don't bullshit. I tell the truth.
Did you consider reaching out to him and trying to call him back?
No, not after he cursed me out on the phone. Would you?
The way I'm wired, my initial thing might be like I'm gonna I'd probably hit redial and be like, "Are you kidding me?" And probably get into it. I mean, I understand
totally
everybody has.
with you, I texted him right back, and I said in the text, "Could you please repeat that? I didn't have my since I'm hard of hearing. I didn't have my speakerphone on. Could you please just text to me what you said? Because I'm not exactly sure what I said, what you said." But basically, I said that because I wanted even a bigger record of what he said. I wanted it in black and white. But it's on the servers in Verizon, so I'm not concerned. You get a court order, they pull it off. His name is Mud.
So where does this rest with you? What I mean, do you think anything more comes of this? Are you just going to move on? Where are you at?
I initially, if you remember correctly, I initially said if he doesn't apologize, I'm going to spill some dirt that nobody knows about.
Right.
And then I spoke to several good friends of mine who are God-fearing people, and I go to AA meetings with, and they said, don't ever sink to their level. That's what they do. That's what they've been doing for years. Why are you going to sink to their level? So then I came to the realization that I don't even have to bring up anything that I have hidden away in my attorney's safe deposit box. I can just talk about things that they've said about me in black and white. They can't come after me after that, because they said it. It's in black and white. Let's talk about some previous interviews. Paul Stanley has admitted the company that does his artwork that he created the logo and designed it. Now, we all know that's a lie. Am I correct? Did I send you the button of the first rendering of the logo with a lips and a diamond shape over the eye, which we decided to drop?
Yeah, I didn't know what that was. You texted that to me. There's a logo that you sent me.
I designed. That was the first rendering of the KISS logo I did.
Wow, I've never seen that. So that
just got auctioned off. The original one, the one I sent you was a copy. That just got auctioned off for $100,000.
Has that picture ever been shown of that original logo? I've never seen that.
It's in my book. You've seen it. You just forgot.
Yeah.
Hey,
so it's a diamond.
We don't have the memory we used to have.
No, I know. Tell me about it. So yeah, obviously,
I can't remember people's names for the life of me.
The thing is, he's always said is you designed the logo, he refined it. So by refining it would mean from what you're showing.
That was his old story. Now he likes to change history and say he created the logo and designed it. What he did was, since he went to music and art, I gave him the logo. Everybody loved it. He said, let me redraw it with a rapidograph pen. And, he can draw straighter lines than me because he's had art training and I haven't. Just like I never took a guitar lesson. So he refined it very nicely. Thank you very much, Paul. And that's the logo that you see today. But he didn't create it. He didn't design it. He just clarified it.
There's
and he's admitted it in early interviews. I just couldn't find it between last week and this week because I'm in the middle of I've been recording 6 days a week, 8 to 10 hours a day. I mean, Jesus Christ. I got to be bothered with this nonsense.
So it sounds like, and look, I told the audience before you came on that I also talked to you and thought that it would be best if you kind of took the high road on all of this because it just doesn't serve any purpose to get into the weeds.
I agree with you. I'm not going to stoop to that level and start trying to change history and bring up lies or truths that sound like lies because I'm the only one that saw it. So it's their word against mine. I don't even want to go there. But I have it in a manuscript.
So, Ace, let me ask you this. Because you sent me on text, you sent me a bunch of these screen grabs of all these headlines on over the years, in the last 20, 30 years, these guys saying stuff about you. You're drug addict, unreliable,
I can't
broke.
Remember anything. So I
know. But I'm saying I'm scrolling through.
Online for the fans.
Right. So I'm scrolling through and I know what you're doing. I see you're compiling this proof and this evidence so it doesn't sound like you're just making this stuff up. Anybody that follows along in the KISS world, and there's many people that do, know that there's been a huge history of these guys either trying to diminish the importance of you and Peter or taking shots at you or whatever the case may be. I have a theory as to why they do that, but why do you think they constantly do it? Well, I don't know if it's the same theory I have, but what do you think?
Then the current lineup is lifted up.
There you go.
Even though I can play rings around Tommy Thayer, Paul's statement on Howard Stern was, the current lineup has elevated the band to a level beyond anything. Listen to the first 5 KISS albums. Tommy couldn't play a solo and write a solo like me if his life depended on it.
I mean, I agree with you that this is always about selling.
Not that I don't like Tommy as a person. It's just that reality's reality.
Right, you're the guy who created all that, of course. But the thing
sound of KISS.
Right. Well, there's many people that would agree with you on that. Absolutely. So the thing is this, though, that and I've said this many times, and this is kind of the case with most bands, but certainly in KISS world, it's about the sell now. So if you pull interviews from '96 when you and Peter reunited, all of that press all talked about this is the magic of the band. Everything else was just a substitute. This is the real KISS.
Whenever
now it's about
money,
this.
Paul will say anything, and so will Gene. If me and Peter are in the way, we get thrown to the wayside so they can make more money with the current lineup. When we're in the band, it's wonderful. It's great. They never played better. They never looked better, Give me a break.
Going back to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame thing, which I was at. I sat with you at that table.
You were at my table. My friend Matt Swanson paid $100,000 for our own table. God bless him.
Me, you, and Peter, and yes, thank you, Matt. But the thing is this. The thought that you and Peter couldn't get up there and do 2 songs is ludicrous. If you would add rehearsal and worked it out, everyone knows you could have easily done 2 songs. That thing is taped.
I was supposed to get up and play with Bruce Springsteen. I was invited by their lead guitarist. Who is the current lead guitar player with Bruce at the moment? He was touring
Stephen Van Zandt or Tom Morello.
Yeah.
Tom was in the band then.
In the afternoon of the show, and he said, would you like to get up and do Highway to Hell with us? I said, well, I'm not familiar with the current arrangement. He said, just pull it up on YouTube, and you can get up, and I'll give you the first, 8 bars or 16 bars. I forgot exactly what he said. He had faith in me as a guitar player, like most people do. And, I said, sure, I'd love to. And if you remember correctly, I had my Les Paul under the table.
I was against my knee, I know.
Against you.
It was because
Against
Ace, do
your
you
knee?
remember? Well, yeah, because the guitar was between me and you under the table. And do you remember we were
Did you
sitting
carry it
there?
out for me?
Yes, and you forgot your Hall of Fame
My
statue,
bag.
which
Yeah,
I
my bag.
I went running after you with. I have a photo of that. But I remember we
You're
were
killing me,
sitting there because you remember Springsteen's band went into the Hall of Fame that year, and they were all talking so long on their speeches that
Even
the
remind
guy
me. I
comes
got so
over.
pissed off.
Yeah, the guy comes over and he says, we're going to have to cut the jam. And that's when you grabbed the guitar and said, let's go, we're getting out of here. And we left, and everybody was hungry. I remember it was a long day.
Stay long enough to hear my friend Joan Jett get up and play with Nirvana, and then I walked out. I said, I'm done.
But going back to that night, which was the trigger for all of this, okay, the truth of the matter was that the Hall of Fame, what Paul said on Howard was truthful, that the Hall of Fame wanted just the original band to play because that's what was getting inducted, and they didn't want to do that.
And if you remember correctly, I said on the last TV show we had a week ago from today, I told you that I got a phone call from Doc, Paul, and Gene, and they wanted me to perform, which is completely incongruous to what Paul said on Howard Stern. But, you know, there is no rhyme or reason why they say what they say. They say what's ever convenient for them and makes them the most money.
Yes, and my point, though, is that there's nobody that could argue that they couldn't have gotten you up there for a couple songs if they wanted to, and no matter what anybody's ability is and isn't, the bottom line is a few days rehearsal, there's no way the four of you guys couldn't have gotten through 3-4 songs in makeup, out of makeup.
Rehearsal to get up and do a couple of Kiss songs. I could play those songs in my sleep. I've been playing those for 15, 20 years before I quit. Well, I quit. I did a 8-9 year run. I quit the band because they were driving me crazy. Then we did the Unplugged on MTV. They asked me to rejoin the band. Oh,
but
I mean, you want me back after you dragged my name through the mud and said I'm unemployable and undependable? Why? Because we made $250 million that year. That's why they asked me.
But Ace, this is my point. You bring up the Unplugged. This is my point about the Hall of Fame. They absolutely could have played, because also everybody knows the Hall of Fame performances that's recorded and aired on HBO 2 months later. All of those artists go into the studio, they touch up audio, they remix it. So the quality of the performance, if that was legitimately their concern, is absolutely ridiculous, because it absolutely could have been dealt with and happened for a couple songs. And the fans who thought
absolutely ridiculous.
Right, but
they say they
fans
try to rewrite history.
Ace,
I mean,
hold on, let me finish this thought.
I sent you some screen grabs where Paul says, in black and white, he created the logo, he designed the logo. I mean, is he trying to rewrite history?
Well, that again, that serves everything is about serving the
black and white from a website.
I know. But that's about serving the narrative. My point is this. They didn't want to play at the Hall of Fame even for a couple songs. As I told you last week, there were tons of bands.
No, they wanted to. They called me up and asked me to. And then I said, I'm not getting on stage with Tommy Thayer.
Right.
And they didn't want to confuse the people in the audience between the old band and the new band, because that's exactly what happened during Unplugged, and they had to drop their album with Tommy and Eric and do a reunion tour because that's what the fans demanded.
Hold on,
there was a little of that fear in their heads, because me and Peter would have gotten up there and killed it.
I'm trying to clarify something, though. When you're 100% right. They didn't want to play. They wanted to play with you and Peter, but only if Tommy and Eric were on stage as well, who were not being inducted. They would not play with just the four people that were being inducted, you and Peter. That's the problem. That's why nobody played. But I'm saying Other
Correct.
bands have done that. Cheap Trick did it. Heart did it. There were members that weren't in the band, but for a couple songs for the fans, they did it. Gene and Paul would not do it for a couple songs for the fans. I believe the reason for that was exactly what you said about the Unplugged. I was at the Unplugged taping. When you guys came out at the end as the surprise, it was mayhem. There was an avalanche. There was no way they could go back and sell the previous non-makeup lineup and the record they had coming at that time, which was Carnival of Souls. They saw the reaction, they folded all that, and they went to the reunion, and we all know how huge the reunion was with you and Peter coming back.
Largest grossing tour of the year.
Right. I believe that they had the same concerns that if they brought you out at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the original four guys, there would have been such a vibe and avalanche like there was in that room when Unplugged was shot that they didn't want to go back to. They didn't want to deal with it. I believe that was in their heads. Nobody can tell me.
Absolutely.
Nobody can tell me that you and Peter could not, at that point in your life, get up there and competently play 2 or 3 songs, even with a little rehearsal if needed. There's no way, especially when it's not live and it can be touched up. So it's.
I wouldn't even need rehearsal. I know those songs like the back of my hand. I still get up and do Deuce and Cold. Well, I wrote Cold Gin. I wrote Parasite, But I didn't write Deuce, and I love Deuce. It's the first song they played for me when I auditioned for the band, so it has a special place in my heart. But we created something really, really special. I designed my own makeup. I even helped Paul design his makeup. His original makeup, he dressed like the dog in Little Rascals. He had
Really?
a circle around his eye, and he's never given me credit for this, but I'm going to tell all the fans right now, this is the truth. I swear to God, on my daughter's life, I said to Paul, why don't you try a star? You know what? I never took credit for it because we were all brothers. We were all working together for the same goal. Just like Gene, I'm going to be the first to admit that Gene wrote the breakdown section in Cold Gin. Dun, da, 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 bum, bum, da, da. He never took credit for it because Gene loves me and I love Gene, and it was just all for one and one for all back then. Today it's just all about money.
It's interesting you talk about songwriting because in that same Howard Stern show, which touched off this comment to you about you and Peter for that matter, Gene and Paul argue throughout that interview. I've not watched every minute of that, but I've heard most of it. They argue amongst themselves about who wrote Strutter and what part of Strutter. So
Who did write Strutter? I thought Paul did.
But Gene kept chiming in and saying he did during the interview with Stern. Or at least part of it. They argued over who wrote what part.
It really doesn't matter, but to them it matters because it means money.
Well, I think they each have. I think they each have credit on the publishing. Hey, have you heard?
You know that song? Bum da dun 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 bum. What is it called?
Love Theme from Kiss. Yeah,
I wrote 90% of that song. I gave Paul, Gene, and Peter equal writing credits. Why? Because I'm a nice guy. They'll probably say I'm lying. But I came in with that song and played it, and they go, oh, that's a great instrumental. Yeah, they helped me arrange it and added a few parts, but the majority of that song came completely out of my head. Will they admit it? To this day, at this point in time, I doubt it.
Have you heard anything from Peter? Ace, have you heard anything from Peter in the last week about this?
I'm sorry?
Have you heard anything from Peter in the last week about this?
No, I just got a text from Gigi because I sent her 3 rough mixes off my album, and she just said, me and Peter loved them. She said, it sounds like the old Kiss.
Yeah, yeah. So just in wrapping up on this whole thing, what do you want to say? And needless to say, where we are now on the 5th day of April, 2023, for fans holding out some sort of hope that you're going to do something again with the band for the final shows, I'd say at least where we sit now, that ship has sailed, huh?
Not necessarily. Money motivates me, just like it motivates them. But I don't put money before God.
So you would still be open to you're still open to ironing this
If I got
out.
$250,000 a night, I can make $500,000 for playing 3 or 4 songs, 5 songs. I'd take the money.
Well,
Buy
you're
a
being
Ferrari,
honest. Most people aren't that honest, but
buy a Maserati.
most people aren't that honest. But you're being how most people think. They just don't express it. Yeah,
Look,
no,
I don't really
I
wanna
appreciate
play with those
that.
guys ever again after what they've done. But money can change my mind. Look, I'm a capitalist. I grew up in America, okay? But I've never put money before people's feelings.
Doc has said one of the
I like
obstacles.
money as much as the next guy does.
Oh, of course,
But money
everybody
isn't
does.
my God like it is theirs. They're all atheists and all, whatever they can make, whatever they can do or say, whether it's true or false, as long as it makes them the most amount of money, they're going to do. Gene used to tell me, Ace, I'd dress up in a tutu if I could make $1 million. And he did when he made that movie with, what's his name, that German actor.
That's true. I forgot what's that movie called with John
You
Stamos.
remember that?
Yeah, Too Young to Die or that is true. He did.
Of course it's true. You know what I love about Gene? Gene tells you to your face.
Yes, I always said that. He's a straight shooter.
And you know what I hate about Paul? Paul will walk into a room, I'll play him a song, and he goes, I love it. He'll walk out of the room and tell the producer, can that. It sucks. You know what that said to me? My wife, at the time when we were recording Psycho Circus, she goes, don't send those guys any of your songs. They're going to steal them. They're going to steal the ideas. So I sent them a song called Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Rock and Roll. They canned it. What happened? Paul came out with a song called I Pledge Allegiance to the State of Rock and Roll. Similar.
Yeah. Ace, one other thing on the potential of playing with them again, one of the obstacles that Doc has cited in interviews recently is the makeup factor, that you can't have 2 guys in the makeup, 2 cats, 2 spacemen.
I'm a good-looking guy. I don't need the makeup.
So that's my question. Would you go out on stage without it?
That I'm the handsomest guy in the band.
Would you go out on?
He's God's gift to women. You better look in the mirror again.
Would you go out on stage without the makeup if they were in it?
Sure. For
the $250,000, whatever. You'll go out in your underwear.
You'd go up on stage for $250,000.
I'd go in the tutu. Get me the tutu.
And you'd wear a tutu.
Hell yeah.
And I'd like to address the anti-Semitic remark that Paul said. Did I
About
send you
you?
a picture of Paul dressed up as a Nazi officer and with his arm up saluting Hitler?
There is a photo that you sent me. Yes, I believe that was also in Lydia Chris's book.
Yeah, and it's split. One is him in the Nazi officer's uniform, and the photo on the left is him raising his hand, his arm.
Mm-hmm.
Correct?
Yeah, I've seen that photo before. Yes.
Okay. And then under it, he accuses me of being an anti-Semite. When a lot of my friends are Jewish, I lived with a Jewish girl for 10 years, that crazy broad Rachel. I have an order of protection against her for 3 years. She took all her Facebook quotes down. She might be going to jail. It's unfortunate, but Paul and Gene gave her $200,000.
Paul and
She was
Jean gave
planning on
your
suing
ex-girlfriend.
Jean for rape and all this other shit.
Paul and Jean gave your ex-girlfriend $200,000. Is that what you just said?
That's what I heard.
For what reason?
I may be incorrect. Maybe it was only $100,000, but it was to sign a non-disclosure agreement. And then she broke it and talked about them further on her Facebook because she probably took a handful of pills and got loaded and say anything. So I called up Kiss's attorney. I said, what the hell's going on? He broke the non-disclosure agreement. Why don't you go after her? He goes, Ace, it's better we just leave her alone because eventually people will just stop listening to her.
Ace, let me ask you this one other thing, and I've seen this happen.
I want to add a few other things. You told me I had time.
Yeah, no. I want to ask you something unrelated to all this, but go ahead. What else did you want to say?
Oh, I don't know. Look at all the things I sent you. Let me look at my notes.
Kisses. So you sent me a bunch of.
Jean have both said in print that they fired me, and I did not quit the band. We all know that is a lie. Thank you, guys. You know how to lie, but you haven't done a record in 8 years, but I've done about 6. What's the problem? Did you lose your creativity? Thank you very much.
I'm looking at a screen grab here from iHeartRadio with a headline that says, Kiss's manager says Ace Frehley likely to show up on band's farewell tour.
Yeah, and that was said so they would sell more tickets because they weren't selling out every show. So they told Doc to say, oh, we invited Ace on to come up and play a couple of songs. So more people bought tickets. Ace fans said, oh, wow, Ace is coming to the show. He's going to play a couple of songs. I'm not going to miss that. Look, they do all these underhanded little things that subliminally make people think I'm going to be there, but I'm not. It's dirty pool. I think it's very, very misleading, and it almost is on the brink of breaking the law.
There's a lot here about them always saying how you and Peter threw away everything, threw away potential, the drugs and all of that. You own all that.
Did you see the headline where Gene goes, Ace and Peter are poor? That's why we both live in mansions. That's why I have a beautiful fiance. That's why I have 4 cars in my driveway. That's why I have a $150,000 recording studio in my basement with over 100 guitars. I'm poor. Didn't you know that?
but
Gene, I don't have the money you have, but I'm not poor. I can guarantee that.
Well, yeah, poor is relative to your finances. That's for sure. Ace, is there I've seen stuff like this happen throughout my career with people in bands, these divisions and
as severe as this?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
For instance?
Well, like the brothers in the Black Crowes, although it wasn't public. I mean, they fought look at the brothers in the band Oasis. I don't know if you know those guys, but they snipe at each other constantly in the press, and it's a bad scene. I mean, there's been, stuff like this has happened, but at the end of the day, you always see and you referenced this before, what you guys created is so iconic and enduring that there's among the 4 of you. It's going to
go on for another 100 years.
Absolutely. After we're all long gone. So
absolutely.
Is there a side to you that that wishes that this could all be resolved and that you could just move on with your life? Is there a side of you that wants to go back?
I gave Paul a chance to do so, and he cursed me out.
Right.
You figure out Paul's brain and then tell me, because I have no idea what the hell's going on in his head. And half the time, I don't know why Gene is putting me down, because when I went on the tour with him, helping him promote his vault experience, which I said I couldn't remember the name of it, and I said the silly safe. And you told me that was one of the funniest.
By the way, that was my favorite thing of all last week. Yeah, that
silly
was
safe.
I tried to get that trending.
Coffee table. He gave me one. But look, the bottom line is this. Deep down in my heart, I love those guys because we created something so special.
Yes.
That it will be remembered for years. When we're all dead and buried, there will still be people listening to KISS music. And I'm overjoyed.
You should be. That's incredible.
I want my legacy to be cleared of any of this bullshit and lies, because I don't want anybody to think that I was fired when I wasn't. I don't want anybody to think that I'm an anti-Semite, because I'm not. I don't want anybody to think that the night of the induction to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I wasn't able to get up and play 2 songs or 3 songs when I had just recorded 2 records and been on tour and 8 years sober. That's such a falsehood. That's what started this whole thing. Everybody said to me, "Hey, Ace," they would call me up going, "Ace, you're finally standing up to them." Well, that was a little too low. That was hitting below the belt. They can say, "Yeah, Tommy's a better guitar player than me." Yeah. Dream on. I'd like to see Tommy write 40 guitar solos like I've written. All he does is copy my guitar solos. He's not even man enough to play his own because Paul and Gene won't let him. And he takes it.
You can't, though. I mean, and this is a credit to you. The solos that I've said this many times.
To me, but in the same token,
your guitar solos.
I'd say, look, if I can't play my own solos, I'm not doing this.
But your guitar solos are songs within the song.
Different makeup, like Eric Carr did, and like Vinnie Vincent did. Why couldn't Tommy have a new makeup? I wouldn't have a problem with that.
I agree completely on that.
Can you figure that one out?
Yeah, well, because I agree completely on that. But what they'll tell you is they wanted to make sure that they kept the same image and the same thing in their mind.
Because my makeup sells more than any other makeup. Do you know that I outsell Gene in merchandise? I was told that by Live Nation.
Look, to me,
I'm not even in the fucking band.
To me, the bottom line is those guys should have had their own makeup, and the narrative that, well, it wouldn't have sold with that because of look at Eric and look at Vinny, that's nonsense, because at that period of time, it didn't matter who was in the band. KISS was at such a rock bottom level that nobody was going to care. I think those guys, Tommy and Eric, were shortchanged by not being able to come up with their own personas, their own people. And look, Doc just said the reason why, at least one of his reasons why it's a problem for you and Peter to come out is because of the makeup. Well, whose fault is that? They should have had their own makeup, and we wouldn't have been here if they did that 20 years ago. The idea that nobody would have bought the band with those guys in different makeup is, to me, ridiculous. Because
yeah, but I would have gotten checks for 20 years. Did I get? Oh, and they're trying to say that they own my makeup. Sorry. I spoke to my attorney yesterday. He goes, "You own the makeup. You licensed it to KISS. That's a fact. I don't lie. Call up Gene."
Let me ask you this then. If that's the case, could you pull that license, which would mean that Tommy couldn't wear it anymore? Or you wouldn't do that because you'd lose your money?
No, because I did something stupid. I was loaded when I did that, and I licensed it to them for perpetuity.
Oh, for as long as they want to use it.
Means they can use it as long as they want to use it, as long as they pay me a royalty, which they do. I get checks quarterly. That's why I'm so poor. Didn't you know that, Ed?
Ace, let me. All right, so just a couple other quick things because I'm going to run out of time. I got to ask you, unrelated to all this, and again, I think you've said what you've said, and it's unfortunate, but please come back and let us know should this ever be cleared up.
I'm really happy I decided not to talk about dirt because I don't want to stoop to their level.
I am too.
I don't want to tell people things that would really not make them like Paul and Gene. I think what I've said today, because all I did was repeat stuff they've said.
Yes, and I think so too, and I told you that. I don't seek that stuff out. It's not good for anybody. I wasn't going to stoop to the level and lie or come up with things that would shock people to the point where they wouldn't even want to go to their concerts anymore. I have proof of that stuff, but I'm not, I'm a team player, and I always was. And they should respect me for that, not put me down. I have no idea what goes on in their brains. But, I helped create KISS. My guitar was the sound of KISS pretty much. Paul's not a bad guitar player. Gene's an underrated bass player. I think Gene's a great bass player. And I love Gene's voice better than Paul's, actually, if you really want to know. But, Ace, let me ask you this. Give a prediction. What? So here we are, April. Hold on. We're
Can
here
I see into the future? Well, when I was 16, I said I was going to be a rock star, and that happened.
Well, you're from outer space, so you should be able to see the future.
The garden?
Well, let me ask you a question. Just one thing.
What?
Here we are, early April 2023. Allegedly, the last ever KISS shows are early December of this year.
Yeah, you believe that like I believe, the moon is going to turn green.
Right. Well, I'm with you on that because I don't believe any farewells ever from anybody. The proof is there. But hypothetically, so assuming that is the last, those last two shows, as we sit today, what do you give the odds of ever being on stage with KISS again at? 50-50? What would you say?
It all depends on money. If I get a formal invitation with a check, I'll be there. But they've got to have deep pockets because
they got to make the offer.
Abuse, they're going to have to pay for it.
And they've never made a formal offer.
Pay me, I won't be there, ladies and gentlemen.
But I'm asking you, they've never made a formal offer to you at all, ever, about coming back for
not. The only reason from what I understand, the shows are sold out. The only reason they sold out is they made innuendos that me and Peter were going to be there. They invited us. I wasn't invited. They lie all the time. Haven't they said we're inviting Ace and Peter to come up and play?
Multiple times,
or at least me?
Multiple times, yes.
Multiple times, okay. So people bought the tickets. But I haven't been given a formal invitation or given an offer monetarily. And I'm probably not going to get one now after this interview. And guess what? I don't give a shit. My legacy is the first 6 or 7 albums. I don't know. Prior to Creatures of the Night is my legacy, and it will last from now till the cows come home.
And it's no surprise that's the legacy
from my mom. She grew up
that
on
they
a farm
sell
in North Carolina.
And that period is the period they focus on and sell without question. Hey, real quick, I saw on your social media you went to see the Neil Bogart movie Spinning Gold. I had the director on about a week ago. I'm curious, as a guy who lived that and knew Neil Bogart, what were your thoughts of that movie?
I liked it.
Did you feel it was accurate?
I thought a lot of it was accurate. Unfortunately, they kind of left me out, but that's okay. Paul and Gene had lines and stuff, and I would bet dollars to donuts that Paul and Gene probably said, yeah, you can use the logo and stuff as long as we talk and have lines, but don't give Ace any lines. They want people to forget about me. They want to promote Tommy, but how could Tommy be in the movie when he wasn't even part of the band at the time?
As
I
somebody
used to party with Neil Bogart. Neil Bogart loved me, and I
well,
loved
that's what
Neil.
I wanted to,
I never had a problem with Neil Bogart, and when I watched that movie, it reminded me of all the fun I had with Neil. He was a great guy, and the only thing I regret is that I didn't go to his funeral because I was kicking drugs at the time, and I was too sick to show up and get on a plane. And I hope Joyce is listening, because, Joyce, I'm apologizing to you because I'm not sure you're aware of that's the reason why I didn't show up. But I was too sick to get on a plane. If I was healthy, I would have been there with bells on.
so you thought the portrayal of Neil Bogart in that movie was accurate. You thought that was a good
I
representation.
thought it was really. I thought you know what killed me? The one that played Joyce looked a lot like Joyce.
right.
And you know what? After watching that movie, if it's as accurate as it says it is, Joyce was a lot sharper than I thought she was. You know, Bill always used to make me think that he was the brains of the thing, but according to that movie, Joyce was the one that was responsible for getting us signed, not Bill.
Yeah, no,
You know?
she's
Bill
always
took
been.
unfortunately, Bill isn't here right now to defend himself, but in that movie, pretty much Joyce is the brains of the operation. And it very well could have been. I didn't know. I wasn't paying attention. You know, I was too happy just running around and having a few drinks and playing with the girls.
Well, yeah, you were young kids figuring it all out. You know,
Yeah, I was young. I'd never been on a plane before till I went on tour with KISS. I'm just a poor kid from the Bronx. Was a poor kid. I'm not poor anymore, Gene.
And for people who are wondering about Joyce, if you don't know the story, Joyce Biowitz was Bill LaCoin's partner in the early management of KISS, and then ended up dating.
They were equal partners.
They were equal partners, and then she ended up having an affair with Neil Bogart, who was the head of Casablanca, who the movie's about, and that created some tension because now the manager of one of the acts is also having an affair with the owner of the label, and there was conflict. Right. So that's covered in this movie. Again, the movie's called Spinning Gold. It opened in theaters last Friday, but I thought that was cool that you went to the theaters and saw it. And as somebody who lived it, I was just curious what your thoughts were.
It really brought back some fond memories of Neil, because Paul hated Neil. They used to fight all the time. You know, I have no idea why. You know, but he always had a problem with Neil. I love Neil. I remember sitting in Gene's apartment, and it was me, Gene, and Neil Bogart, and we were discussing this, that, and the other thing. And all of a sudden, you know, Neil pulls out a 2-gram vial of Coke, lays it out on the table, and me and him snort a couple of lines of blow, and Gene's just sitting there like an idiot, looking, going, okay.
Wow.
You know, that's the kind of guy Neil was.
I didn't know Neil Bogart.
Drugs, he liked his booze, and he liked his women. You know.
Yeah, I didn't know Neil Bogart,
pretty much
but
the same way until I found the right one. I found my soulmate. You know, and now I've settled down, and I've been sober now almost 17 years. I'll be sober 17 years September 15th. God bless it. Knock on wood.
Congratulations, man. Is it still hard for you or no?
Excuse me?
Is it still hard for you to stay sober? Do you ever have problems?
No. It's you know, my life in the last year or two has been going real. I mean, I just came back from California, 8 sold-out shows in bad weather where there's mudslides. The clubs were still packed. Yeah, I'm playing clubs, not stadiums. Okay, big deal. I'm still making money.
Well, listen, buddy, I got to wrap this up. We went for over an hour here, and I appreciate the time. I think you did the right thing here as far as taking the high road and not going into your notes or whatever it is that you have in that lockup. And you know,
I just wanted to say one other thing. Did you see the interview that Doc did with Thinking Stanley? Doc admitted in the interview that they use backing tracks.
Yes, he admitted that Paul sings to a track on camera. Yes, we've talked about that. Yeah.
Just so the people that buy tickets to see Kiss know that they're not getting a completely live show.
Well, that's
in fact, one kid sued Live Nation and said they wanted a refund, and guess what? They got it.
Yeah, I had heard that story. This is something that I
story. I looked into it.
This is what I
for a live concert. Hey, look at the interview with Gene, 2015. He goes, I have a problem with a band, somebody paying $100 for a ticket and the band isn't live. Well, he changed his tune real quick when they started playing stadiums and making millions of dollars, because money is God, not integrity. If I lost my voice, I didn't say Paul lost his voice. Paul can still sing. He just can't sing like he used to sing. He can't hit the notes he used to hit, and that's understandable. Most singers over 70 can't. But what I used to do, if that happened to me, I'd hire a lead singer and just concentrate on my guitar playing. Big deal, But using backing tracks, come on.
Well, look,
I will never do that.
Thank
People
God,
pay for a live show. They're going to get it from Ace Frehley.
I couldn't be more. I don't care who the band is. It's something I've been on a soapbox about for years.
I don't care if I'm playing for a 300-seat bar. What you hear is live.
To me,
I don't play 300-seat bars anymore.
To me, the true death of rock and roll, if you really want to think rock and roll is dead, it's all the bands that play to computers and can't jam, and there's no margin for error, and you're hearing a tape.
I've heard some
it's
stories,
sick. It's sickening.
And it's very disheartening to me.
Sickening. I have zero interest in seeing it or hearing it.
How can you pay $1,000 for a front row ticket when the guy is not singing the whole song?
It's not just singing. Some bands have instruments, guitars, bass, the drums, the keyboards, it's insane. And if fans don't
I don't want to name the bands that I know for a fact do it, because I don't want to get them in trouble, and I have nothing to do with them, and I have no bug with them. But, Paul and Gene, we have a problem. They've said some shitty things about me, and now I'm going to, say some shitty things about them because I'm pissed off. But everything I've said today is public record. Look up the interviews. Guaranteed. 2015, Gene says, I have a problem with backing tracks. It's there on YouTube.
Oh, I know. Paul's talked about it in the past, too. Other bands that have other guys singing the parts and all that. I know. It's insane.
Why doesn't he just get another singer to help him out? Dress him up as a kangaroo. I don't know.
On that note, I got to go because I'm almost out of time. But thank you for coming on again.
By the way, the new album I'm recording, and everybody can hold me to this, it may be the best album to date I've ever done. I think it might top my first solo album with New York Groove. That's coming from the horse's mouth.
When it comes out, we will do another show on that, of course, and we'll talk all about the record when people can hear it. Yeah, man.
Thank you so much, Ed. You're a gentleman and a scholar, and it's always a pleasure being on your show. And thank you, fans, for listening. Every word I said out of my mouth is true. I might have joked around a little, but all the statements I made are factual, and you can look them up on YouTube.
All right, man. I got to go. I'll be back in Jersey next week. I'll hit you up.
Hey, I want you to come over for a barbecue, brother.
Yeah, I want to come hear the record, too. So I'll
warm.
I know. I'll hit you next week.
Laura's parents just came over from Greece. Her father just turned 90. You got to come over and meet them. They're a riot.
I'll be there. I want to come next week. We'll do it. We'll set it up.
Okay. You got after Easter, around Easter.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, man.
Thank you,
I'll talk
Ed.
to you soon.
Thank you,
Thank
Ed
you.
staff. Thank you, fans. Thank you, people that aren't fans. At least you've been informed of reality. I know these days it's kind of hard to tell the difference between reality and non-reality. But be that as it may, we'll end on that note. And thanks for having me on, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. We'll see you. Thanks, Ace.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. There he goes. The one and only. Just, I think, look, there's a lot of what Ace said there that obviously has been talked about before. And I want to tell you what happened there so you know. Ace, all those things that Ace said, he sent me a bunch of screen grabs I have via text of these stories and articles where to support what he said, where Gene in print, where Gene and Paul have said these things about him. With in print, Doc saying he's going to come back to the band, all of this stuff. So what he's trying to do there, he sent me the screen grabs of the cell phone of the 5-second call. So what he's trying to do there is just provide additional proof to me and anyone that wants it. As you could hear, very sincere. It's very important to him that what he's talking about is not people take as being truth. And he actually went to the length in the last day or so to accumulate screen grabs and links to support what he just said. So he's, kind of buttoned up on this in terms of anybody that's going to say any of this is embellished or taken out of context. Again, we know that last week when he came on, he claimed he had all this dirt and would destroy his, Paul's career and these things that he has in this manifesto or whatever it is. It sounds like I can tell you I advised him against doing that, as it sounded like other people did, and I'm glad that he did not do that. Everything he said has been out there and is documented. So to get into dirt and try to take people down and stuff that's not public or getting really in the weeds, again, I don't think that's a smart thing to ever do, and I'm glad he didn't do that. And I will close by saying this just again, for the record, as I've said repeatedly, any and all former or current members of KISS are always welcome on my show. Always. Always have been, always are welcome. I can only talk to the people who will talk to me and come on. So lest anyone, I only get one side from Trunk and this and that. You can only present sides that'll come on. Bruce has come on a lot over the years, still does. Peter occasionally when he's got something going on. And he would be interesting to hear from on all this because, he was thrown under the same bus, but, of course, Peter's welcome if he wants to dive in on this. And, Eric Singer, Tommy Thayer, always welcome. Gene, Paul, needless to say, always welcome. You can only talk to the people that will talk to you.
Silly, there's a life out there.